Welcome to episode 4 of Aussies Taking Over the NBA podcast. I'm your host today, Benjamin Black, and I've got Andy with me today. Say g'day.
G'day.
He's just watched Celtics and Philly, the conclusion of that game.
Yep. Ended with confetti and no win for Philly.
Yeah. So they're 3-0 down in the series, and they've got a big task ahead of them.
I would say insurmountable based on the first 3 games, but you never know. There could be miracles.
Yeah, stranger things that happen. Throw the shit to the wind and hope for the best. Like, you never know. They might bring something out of them.
Yeah, hopefully. But I very much doubt that's going to happen. Better game, but some bad turnovers. Bad.
We've had Joe Ingles and Dante Exum in the Jazz versus the Rockets.
Yeah, Ricky Rubio out for the series, it looks like, with that hamstring. So Exum's kind of come in as a second backup point, but getting more minutes.
Yep.
And Jinglin Joe is...
he had a great game in game 2, but then in
game 3 it was just...
it came unstuck a little bit.
Shit the bed, that one. Oh, that was bad. That was bad to watch. It was. It was just a whole bunch of nobody's lanking shots up there, and it was just crap. But anyway, let's go to game 1.
Yeah, we'll go back to game 1, where it was a 110-96 victory to Houston. They started that game hot. They came out, and I think they put up 64 in the first half.
Yeah, that was just a Houston shooting experience.
Yeah.
I think that the Jazz fell behind first quarter and didn't really get ahead at all.
I thought they came out looking a bit tired, the Jazz.
Yeah, it's a 2-day turnaround from the OKC series.
Yep.
And it wasn't a great enthusiastic performance. Obviously in Houston as well, so home crowd. Houston shooting well. I think they were down 20-25 at halftime. They're not coming back from that against Houston at home.
Well, I thought they showed some signs of life in that first game. Coming back to make the score at least semi-respectable.
I know, but it was really just junk minutes for Houston at the end, and I think they kept the big guns on to give them a bit of a run and try and pull it back. But that game was never in question. It was really always going to be a Houston win.
Well, Jay Crowder, I think he played really well. I think he had 8 from 13, and he had 5 from 7 from 3. I got the feeling when I watched that second half performance, it was a little bit better, that there were some options for the Jazz to try and limit this Houston team.
Exum came in the game and guarded Harden quite well. I mean, he's got a good reach on Harden with kind of being quick laterally and able to get in Harden's face and chip him a bit. But he was a good offense. He's not. He's a shoot first point guard, which I don't think works with Houston.
I think Exum is more of a drive and score type of player.
He really is a shooting guard. He's not a run the play. If you're going to put him on the point, you want someone at least kind of run the big guys, get them into the right positions. Whereas Exum's not that, so it's not the right attacking option. But game 2, they brought him in as purely a James Harden defender and a shooter, and that really lifted.
Well, some of that first game, the comeback started to give me a little bit of hope for that second game, that there was some things that they could do to Houston to kind of limit them. And Exum, I think, defended Chris Paul not too bad. He has size on Chris Paul.
Well, Harden was 2 points from at least 12 attempts game 2 against Exum. Against the rest of the Jazz, I think he had 32 points, but against Exum 2, and he was 1 from 13 from the field.
And I think he had a couple of charges. I think he had 1 charge as well that he drew off Harden.
Ears. But I mean, Jinglin Joe won that game for the Jazz.
That game too.
Jinglin and Exum. That dunk with about a minute left from Exum.
It was a nasty dunk. It was a good dunk. It was dribbled out sort of towards the 3-point line, sort of out to the wing, and then really just off the turned in off of 2 steps and dunked over 2 guys. I think at that point, at that stage of that second game, the Houston defense kind of had fallen into a hole, and I thought that Schneider had come up with a good foil to put Exum on Harden, and also they kept leaving Ingles open. Like he had a monster night in that second game. Which
Ingles was 44% during the main season. 44%. Yeah. I mean,
you don't leave him open.
You don't leave him open. He's got one of the highest 3-point percentages in the league.
But also, it's Joe Ingles too. I mean, you wouldn't leave a Steph Curry or a Klay Thompson open, and that'd be on your scouting report.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure you're really going to set up for Ingles to try and shut down the opposition. Like you're not. He's an extra shooter, and he's going to be on the wing open if they're running anything that leaves him open. But you're not going to tailor your entire game plan around to shutting down Ingles.
You're not. But again, that's what lost them game 2.
Yeah,
from a Houston perspective.
They gave him a couple of really good open looks to get going. I thought he looked really, really like spry at the start of that game. Like he had a nice run in and layup. And then he had those 3 open threes that he knocked down, and I think he was 4 from 5 in the first quarter, and then I think he finished with 7 from 9 from 3. Just looking that up. Yeah, I think he finished with 7 from 9 from 3, and a lot of those were wide open threes.
Yeah, I think. It seemed to me towards the end, Houston had resigned themselves to a bit of a loss, and they were just tweaking shots, hoping for some sort of run to appear out of nothing. And when that didn't happen, let's go to game 3. There wasn't that scrappy fight for me towards the end
of that game 2.
Yeah, game 2.
I don't think Houston defensively have that lock-on defense that they want to really knuckle down and defend.
Yeah.
Which I think the Jazz have that in their locker. They've got that kind of lockdown defense.
They do. There's been some weird matchups this playoff series. If some teams had matched up against others, I think we'd have a very different look. Just weird matchups. I think Houston and the Jazz match up quite well. They're an interesting dynamic coupling. Either of them, if Houston goes cold, the Jazz will win.
Yep.
And if the Jazz don't defend well, Houston will win.
Yeah.
But I think, Houston plays the Warriors, and it's a 3-point fest. It's whoever's hot on the night. It's not interesting. Yeah. It's a shoot-a-thon, which is the most likely outcome probably from this series. I'd want the Jazz to progress because I hate Houston with a passion.
I think the Jazz could probably win their next game at home.
I think it goes to 2-2.
They can win it, but ultimately they needed to win 3 in a row to have a really good chance to win that series.
Yeah.
And I thought that when they came out in that game 3, it just didn't,
the best thing
didn't look like a team that was ready to sort of lock in and focus on the rest of this series. It looked like they were still sort of nursing that victory. I thought they could just come out slow, and ultimately, you do that against Houston, they're having any kind of night. They put up 39 in the first quarter and then 31 in the second. They had 70 for the half. And I mean, you've got to play pretty well to stay in contact with a team that's playing that well.
Tactically, what can you do? You throw a few bench players, junk players on to foul aggressively to stop a Houston run, or how do you stop the march with timeouts alone? You just got to be a better perimeter defender and get on Harden's case, get in Chris Paul's face. It seems the more niggly the players are, the better the outcome. I think in that series against OKC, Ingles got in George's face, and he shit the bed last game. Yeah.
Well, Ingles and Chris Paul were getting into it a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think Paul's the kind of guy that
cares.
Yeah, he's not one to sort of mentally break down because of the niggle in a game. I think, if you're trying to get in his head, it's not necessarily going to work.
Did you see that the fan?
Oh yeah, so I'm slapped the phone out of his hand. Yeah, and
so you can obviously get into Harden's head.
Yeah, but he's just so good. I mean,
no, that's the issue.
It's not just the fact that off the dribble he can beat you, get all the way to the basket and score. He's got so many tools to, shoot off the dribble. Like make it look like he's going to drive, make it look like he's running some sort of action, and then it just ends up he just launches this three that just goes straight through, and it gets really hard to defend that.
Is that step back at travel?
I think it is, personally, but if they're not going to call it, then you're just going to keep doing it until someone calls it.
Yeah.
I do personally think it's a travel, but, the refs this season said they were going to, clamp down on the up fake. Like he has this up fake right in their face of a defender, which they said they were going to clamp down on, and he keeps drawing those all the time.
Yeah.
He had 2 in that second game. So what can you do? You're just going to keep doing what you do and wait until the refs sort of call it. He's such a dangerous player for so many reasons that if you're the Jazz, you can't just throw a body at him, sort of lock in on one aspect of his game. I mean, he's got that many weapons, the off the drive, he's got the shot, he's got the pull up and shot, he's got that step back three, and then I thought in the second game they did a really good job of limiting the dump offs. Like they love to dump off at the rim, waiting to Capella, who's waiting on the baseline, and they did a really good job of knowing that Houston were going to do that. So I suppose if you go into game 3 thinking, we'll take that away, we'll make sure we're looking at it, then instead of dumping off, they're just kicking out to an open shooter because they're collapsing into the paint. So, I mean,
it's a game of tactics.
Well,
I think one contracts, one expands.
I think one team moves one way, the team has to go with them, and then that team just has the ability to go a different way.
Well, that's it. I think the team who wins is the team that draws the other team into their game plan.
Well, and I think Houston's, beyond all of that, Houston's ability to catch fire and put up 70.5 is ultimately going to win you a series more often than it isn't.
Yeah.
And I don't really think the Jazz have the sort of the arsenal to put up 70 in a quarter and really blow the Rockets away.
No.
They're going to have to just bring them in, suck them in, and play, like, compete at their game, which I thought they did in game 2. They really did that well.
I stick Exum on Harden for the rest of the series. Without Rubio there, I put maybe Mitchell running the point. I think he does a good job running the point. And I'd stick Exum on Harden. And make him play for his contract.
Yeah, well, Donovan Mitchell is, I think, a very good option because he's got the same sort of game as Harden. Like, he can shoot off the dribble, he can sort of drive, and
he can pass,
score. Some of the layups and some of his scoring is fantastic.
But I mean, he's been blocked more times in this series than any other person because he is. If he doesn't go for the bucket, he's only 6'3". He's not got a long reach. And they're not calling the foul, which they haven't been doing, and they definitely didn't do game 3. Like the first quarter, he drove, I think, 3 times, and every time he got blocked.
Yeah.
And that says something, right? That's not working. Let's move on to something else. It didn't. He kept trying for that option, and the fouls weren't getting called. That's game.
Yeah, no, I think he's not someone who's going to shy away from that. And I would say,
I mean, that's a coaching. Snyder should come out and say, right now, that's not working. Houston went big.
I mean, you want that in a player. You want that you want it stuck on automatic for a player. And he's only a rookie. It's his first season. He took a few sort of silly rookie shots, I think, down the stretch in that game too.
Oh, yeah.
He had that huge tip dunk. That was amazing. That was fantastic. But, I mean, ultimately, if they had Rubio, if they could get Rubio back on the court, they have an extra player who's a pass-first player.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it allows Mitchell to play as a guard, shooting guard, and be the second guy that goes to the hole, not the guy who's the ball handler that goes to the hole to try and put the ball in. And I think that's something they're missing, that extra. And even Exum's kind of not, he doesn't have the playmaking skills that Rubio has.
No, he's not a pass-first point guard. I don't see him as a point guard at all, to be honest with you. Yeah. He's a shooting guard. And I think he's been played out of position most of his NBA professional career. But I think in where he was used well in game 2 is he was used down the stretch to guard Harden and come off as a shooting option.
Yeah.
And it worked.
And he had a couple of big threes.
That dunk. I mean, and again,
he drew the charge off Harden, which was big as well. And for him to have more of an impact in this series, I think, yeah, you're right. He's going to just have to go on, play on Harden for as long as he can.
Yep.
Until Harden comes off the
have 6
floor.
to 7 hard minutes, switch out, and just be a defensive player. Because it's just as important as a scoring player.
Yeah.
They've got tons of scoring options, and he doesn't need to be that scoring option. And it's the same as Covington for Philly. He doesn't need to be that scoring option. He's fantastic on the defense, and you bring him in at certain times when defensive prowess is required. Maybe that's the right thing to do. It'd be interesting seeing what happens Game 4 in the Jazz, because Utah's been a stronghold for them. That crowd, the crowd was silent after about 10 minutes. It was, you could call it game.
That was kind of cracks appearing in the Jazz type of scenario. Ultimately, they would have wanted to win both of those at home.
Yeah.
Keep that sort of home crowd buzz going, keep that fresh for them to use, even if Houston extended the series like it happened in OKC. But ultimately, losing that home court advantage that they gained, I think, is a huge psychological blow for them. Going into their third game, obviously it makes that a must-win. They have to win it no matter what. It makes that Game 4 just all that much tougher. The crowd's not going to be into it as much if there's any kind of explosion of offense from Houston. Crowd gets a bit twitchy. I don't know if they can from here win 3 games in a row. So win at home, win away, and win at home.
No.
Even if
I think it goes. It doesn't go to 7.
Well, I think
what do we predict?
7.
Look at the board. What do we predict?
I think you had Rockets in 6. I had Utah in 7. So just to shake things up. But ultimately, I'm thinking for the amount of firepower that the Rockets have, they can ride that wave of firepower for a lot longer than the sort of the way the Jazz can limit it.
Yeah.
Firepower leads to more scorched earth. And the more you you're going down that avenue of just getting really hot and outscoring the other team. I don't know if the Jazz really has sort of scoring in them to, make that be less effective and make it affect Houston. Because
I think without Rubio running the point, it's pretty tough to put that all on a rookie. And this is, I think you see this in the flip side of Philly. It's very tough to put that all on a rookie and have it come off successfully night after night. I think it has bad, and you see Game 3, Mitchell played not that good, and it showed on his stat sheet. But I think bringing Mitchell to the point and having that second ball handling option in Exum as more of a scoring option is the way to go when Rubio's not there. I think we'll get probably an update on Rubio's injury next game.
It's a big part of that series to lose him. Not necessarily. Obviously, scoring's not going to change the series, but it just allows that roster to do so many different things. Having Mitchell constantly play as the first team point guard means that
you limit it because he's very much asked to do the same thing as Rubio, pass first. He's not a pass first player. He's a shoot first player and should be. He's an aggressive shooting player, and you limit that option. You're down one shooter. I mean, Exum still hasn't played great minutes, and therefore, if Crowder's not firing, if Gobert's not firing, and Gobert hasn't been firing, in Game 2.
That's a big matchup too, where Capella's kind of neutralized Gobert a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
There's parts to that matchup that affect Capella. I thought Capella sort of looked really tired in that second game. They were he did a lot of running in that first game and did a lot of running in that second game. He looked a little bit tired, and Houston loved that dump off at the basket. They like to drive and dump off to him coming up the baseline. And if that's not happening for him, then that's one way to limit him. But obviously, I think he had 2 blocks as well, which were massive blocks, which gets them going. And I think he forced Crowder into a pickup or a carry, a double dribble type of thing.
Yeah.
So he's a different type of center than Gobert, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
Gobert, he doesn't have as many tools in his arsenal on the offensive end. Gobert, he can't put the ball on the floor, which limits the way he can interact with the Utah offense. But Capella has so many different tools at the basket. He can hook, like you can put up a baby hook, put the ball on the floor, dribble out, and even hand off. And
To a cut or something like that.
yeah, and I don't think Gobert really has that in his bag at the moment. I don't think he's got that sort of like offense in his bag. And it's mainly the way he plays defense, which leads to him playing better on offense.
Yeah, it's also, he's one of those players that when he's single-minded, if he's going for the rim, he's going for the rim.
Yep.
And he's not going to look for the pass-off. He's not going to look for the free. He's just single-mindedly going for that. And it either goes in or it doesn't. He's either having a good night or he's not.
Well, he had a couple of, in that second game, he had a couple of moments where, a double team would double Mitchell or whoever had the ball and they'd just dump over the top. And he almost, one-step dunk, basically. And I think he had, like sort of in the second half, he had one where he came up the baseline, Mitchell drove, handed it off, and he had a wide-open dunk. But it was mainly because Capella had to switch on Mitchell. So Mitchell was running at Capella, which meant Gobert was just wide open, but they just can't seem to get that to keep happening, keep flowing in that offense. Houston switch a lot, but they've seemed to really limited the fact that if Chris Paul switches onto Gobert and there's a mismatch, they're really quick to just get straight out of it, or they were really quick in the first and the third game, but in the second game, that sort of broke down a little bit. Obviously, you can't keep going on Mitchell as a rookie and just have him come up with have him just come up with the right play every time. I mean, he's a rookie. You gotta look at a rookie and say, well, he's gonna take silly shots. You take the good with the bad, but you ultimately, he's in his first year, so you can't sort of take him out back and flog him for not reading a game and coming up with the goods. You've just got to accept that because he's a rookie. So that's another reason, right? They really miss Rubio.
Yeah.
And, that Joe Ingles, I don't think he got many open threes in that third game.
No, they closed him. They figured out what to do there and they closed it down pretty quickly. And I think that in a fast-moving, fast-paced game and against a smaller opponent, Joe Ingles struggles a bit on the defensive side. I think that big Chris Paul kind of matchup works well for him.
Yeah.
But if he's going against a fast,
like
faster
Eric
opponent,
Gordon or Tucker,
a Tucker, he's going to get out.
Yeah, he doesn't have the feet really. Yeah.
And he's not switching onto the right players. But again, he didn't play a hell of a lot of minutes compared to what he has in the second game. But I think they figured out pretty quickly how to get around the Jazz and executed and just hit light and 70 in the first half and game over.
Yeah, I think that's you've just got to respect Harden as
the player he is.
Yeah. But so what are your predictions for game 4 and 5?
I think Jazz take game 4. I think it's a tactics, it's a to and fro, and I think they take game 4 and I think they take it well. But I think Houston close it out from there.
Yeah. I think barring another sort of big first and second quarter, like a big first half from the Rockets, maybe the Jazz can sort of bring them back into that game, but ultimately playing 48 minutes at the pace that the Rockets play, it's going to take its toll on you eventually. Yeah. And it's been interesting that the first couple of games, the Rockets really did come out all guns blazing, putting up points. So I guess if they can withstand that, then maybe they win game 4. But they know as well they've won one in Houston, so maybe they can draw on that. The Rockets go cold.
The away win is always a plus, and
But I can't see them.
I'd say that at this point the series is level. They've each had an away win. Jazz should take a home win next game.
Yeah.
And then it starts from there, and it's really best of 3 game series.
Yeah.
But I still think the Rockets close it out in 2.
I'm still going with my Jazz in 7. I'm still on for that.
Still on for that. Okay. Well, let's move to the Philly Celtics. disappointment series.
Yeah. I think it's been a pretty intriguing series.
I think the Celtics have played unbelievably well.
Yeah.
I think that their ability to switch, their ability to shut down the Philly arc without fouling. I mean, Miami it was a foulathon. They played hard, they played aggressive, but ultimately they lost because they sent Redick to the line more times than they could afford.
Yep.
This Celtics defense is so much better,
Yeah.
and so much it matches Philly exactly. It matches Philly's strengths exactly. I think against the Cavs and the Cavs style of play, I think the Celtics would have struggled.
Yep.
It would have been, and you could see like the weird disconjointed attack of the Bucks somehow pulled out 2 games.
Yeah.
But I mean, game 1, Terry Rozier was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think he was 7 from 9.
Yeah, he had 7 from 9 from 3, and a lot of open shots too.
It was a lot of shit, but in the end, he was shooting over Embiid. Like he's 6'1". He was shooting over Embiid way beyond the 3-point line. The first game was really just who shot from best from 3-point, and Philly put up 4 from 26, and I think the Celtics put up close to 16 from 30 or something like
17
that.
From 36. So Philly had 5 from 26 from 3, and the Celtics 17 from 36 from 3. But I don't know if that really tells the full story.
I think for game 1 it does. I think that when Baines is hitting 3 points from the corner, that's it means everyone's joining the party. Yeah. I think Al Hartford played really well and has done all series.
Yeah.
I think that they guarded Redick and Bellinelli better than anyone. I think Covington played like dog shit. Ilyasova had a woeful game. For my mind, player of the series as far as TJ McConnell for Philly. I think that when he's run the floor, the Celtics have struggled with his nippiness, his ability to pull players into position and pull the Celtics out of position. And he didn't get the minutes game 1, but I think Ben had a good game 1, not a great game 1. Again, they were just outshot at Boston, which I expected. I expected Boston to take the first 2 games. There was no doubt about that.
I think if they had any chance in this series or any way to sort of really cement their place in this series, they would have had to have won game 1 or game 2.
I still think that losing today at home was the icing on the cake in a bad series. I think this showed the rookie team for what it was.
Yep.
And I think, game 2 was almost like Jazz's game 3. It was poor.
Yeah.
Ben was minus 23 on the field, and it was.
Yeah, I think they were up
20.
11.
They were up 24.
Oh, was that game 2?
Yeah, game 2. I mean, game 1 was a 3-point fest. They shot poorly. And that was pretty much it. But it was actually a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. Game 2, they shut the bed. They let Boston back into it. The home crowd pretty much gave Boston the lift that they needed.
Yeah.
I think Jaylen Brown playing with a bum hamstring gave Boston the lift.
Yeah.
They saw if he could do it, then they all could do it. And there was this belief in themselves. Terry Rozier played extremely well. Jaylen Brown played well. I mean, for my mind, the rookie of the series has been Tatum.
Yeah.
He's so good.
He's been fantastic. And the other part of that is he's playing on Redick, and he's got an obvious size mismatch. So
obvious size mismatch and obvious speed and strength mismatch. Yeah. And, defensively, I don't think he's been great against Redick, because Redick is still able to get off a lot of threes. But offensively, no one can shut him down.
No, he's got the size and he's got the speed.
He doesn't think, he just does. And more often than not, I think he was 1 from 7 in the first game, beyond the 3-point. And he went, all right, let's just get around them. Game 2, drove the basket. Game 3, drove the basket and was successful. Picked up big points in the dying minutes of Game 3, which really helped. But Game 2, Philly lost that game. I think Brett Brown made the wrong decision in bringing Ben Simmons back into the fold with 7 minutes left in the quarter 4. Yeah. TJ McConnell was winning that game for them. And he was plus 16 on the field when he was in charge, and he's like a little general. He gives Philly a lift.
Yep.
Because he's so enthusiastic, and they brought Ben in, and it was game over. That was single-handedly Ben's worst game of his career. 1 point, 5 rebounds, 4 assists.
7 assists.
Oh, 7 assists. Oh, you got a few towards the end.
He had 5 boards as well. I think I was telling you about sort of halfway through the season, you could kind of see there was a dip in Simmons' game where teams had worked him out. Teams just stood off him. Yep, we'll let you just get wherever you want. We know you can't shoot as long as we'll pack the paint and make sure we know you're driving. We'll just stack bodies there and we'll make you shoot a floater or we'll make you shoot a jump shot or do something like that. There's ways to defend that, but also that goes another level deep where you can't if you're defending a player like Simmons, you're just thinking he's not going to shoot at all.
Yeah.
You're just saying to yourself, well, he's not going to shoot. There's no way. And obviously, he doesn't even like a pump fake, or he doesn't have like a pull up where he backs down somebody and tosses the ball out. I mean, he really is just going to that sort of floater, and it's a 50-50. You know, I'm just going to either put it up and either put it in, or I'm not going to put it up, and it sort of becomes a bad shot in the end.
It's a bad shot option, but he I think, where Mitchell and Tatum don't think about this.
Yep.
They're just going to put shots up. If they miss, all right, I'm going to work a little bit harder on the defense to get the ball back.
Yep.
Simmons is too much of a pass-first player. And when you're in that, when you're in a playoff situation and you're essentially crowding the paint, you're taking out Embiid's option to get the rebound or Saric's option to get the rebound because you are knowing that Simmons is either going to drive and float it, like you said, and then you're just going to stack bodies in, and you've got good rebounding options in Boston, Baines or Harford or Morris, good aggressive guys in the paint. But he just do a Westbrook, chuck 10 in.
Just yuck it up.
It's much better, and it gives you a bit more confidence. If you hit one, all right, well maybe 50%. I'm going to hit the next one. Well, you've just got 4 points where you got none before.
Yeah.
It's a 50-50. And I think game 3, he kind of went out and said, all right, I'm going to shoot from the elbow. And you guess what? He got them all in.
Yeah.
But again, he didn't shoot enough from the elbow. That's my issue at the moment, is that he needs to take the ownership of the situation.
He needs to make Boston respect him as a shooter.
Yes.
And that's where I'm going with, like, it's an extra level deep, that if you're letting the opposition just not respect you at all as a shooter, then you've got to make those shots, or you've got to at least take them. And I think the first 2 games, he sort of shied away from that.
Yeah.
Unless he had a free
I don't know if it's
drive.
a directive from Brett Brown is to not shoot. I don't think it is.
It's probably that he's a rookie. I mean, it's his first series, you know.
But even if he's shooting, if he shoots 30%, what, you're gonna put it to Embiid. Embiid backs someone down and hits maybe 50% of the time.
Yeah.
He gets tired. Late game is useless. You give it to Saric, who hasn't had a great series.
No, he and Covington haven't shot well, and that's
Covington game 2 was, for my man, Philly game 2.
Yeah.
Along with TJ. Covington shot really well game 2, but he's so hot and cold.
Yeah.
His only saving grace is he's a fantastic defender.
Yeah.
Most tips in the NBA deflections.
Yeah.
He's long. He will get into your face. He'll steal it. He'll go for the steals, and Celtics are wary of passing to who he's defending.
Yeah.
That's his saving grace. He doesn't have that. He's not an NBA player. I mean, he's an undrafted coming up from the G League. He's been there since the beginning of the process. Yeah. His 3-point percentage hasn't changed in the last 4 years.
I think he had that really hot streak at the start of the season.
That's what it was, and that's what he got him his 4-year deal. Realistically,
yeah.
That's what he was signed on, and his defensive prowess. But yeah, in this game, he was none from 13 from the field.
In game 3,
yeah, game 3,
he had none from 8 from the field, none from 5 from 3,
none from 13.
So 13. He had 1 point. He had the Ben Simmons game too, 1 point.
Yeah, and it's when he's not firing, when Saric isn't firing, and you've got three options left. You've got Bellinelli, who played well. I think he's a solid player, and I'd love to see him there next season. You've got Redick, and you've really got Ilyasova, because the amount of times Embiid back down, and they've just learned, let's just pinch him as he backs down, because he's single-minded. Once he starts backing down, you know he's going for the basket. Again, they've worked him out, and I think that Game 4, him back down. They're not guarding Simmons, so they're not expecting Simmons to come in from behind and shoot from the elbow. That's a perfect. If you get that 40% of the time, that's still better than Embiid backing down missing.
Yeah, well, that was one of the parts where teams that were playing Philly sort of halfway through the season were working out that if you wait till they pass the ball into Embiid and wait till he's sort of posting up and he's going to score, Ben Simmons' man would always just help, because they know there's no respect for him as a shooter. And Embiid's not a pass-first sort of big man. He's not going to pass the ball out. I mean, he might, but 90% of the time, he's just going to go into his triple threat move and try and score. And the more he's putting the ball on the floor, you know, the more energy he's using. And it's all right for, you know, we saw the Spurs where LaMarcus Aldridge tried his best. I mean, he had a great series, but ultimately, if that's your main scoring option, it really isn't a. It's
not Philly's main scoring option, though. And that's, you know, he was 10 from 25 from the field today. And, you know, that's not a great day out. But Simmons needs to take control of that and say, right, I'm ready. I'm ready to put a three up. Shoot the ball. Someone wants to. I reckon the crowd will get more happy about Simmons shooting from beyond the arc than anything else in this series if he actually took a shot. He hasn't taken one shot from beyond the arc this season. All his 3-point shots, he's none from 13, have been buzzer beaters from halfway or, you know, just hoiking it up there. That for me, if anything comes out of this series, is Game 4. They use that double team on Embiid to develop Simmons' shot. Maybe it's not the platform to do it, but when Redick's being guarded extremely well, when Bellinelli's being guarded, and they're just tackling them, they're completely tying their hands up. They can't get free. Then try something different Game 4, and that is the last thing that Boston will be expecting.
Yeah, well, there's got to be a way to use Embiid more effectively. You know, not have him waste so much energy posting up a lot. Move him towards passing out of the post a bit more.
Even with, you know, getting TJ in as a shooter, I mean, and passing out to TJ for a little jump shot. I mean, TJ's fantastic at the elbow. Such a good, most underrated backup point guard in the league, I think, for my mind. And it's going to be tough next season to keep him. Or do you keep him or Fultz? For me, I keep TJ and trade Fultz for potentially a good pick, or it would be good to get another shooter. I mean, I don't know if they'll keep both Ilyasova or Bellinelli for next year.
Well, Bellinelli is a player that, you know, on his day and on his night, he can be a plus, but then when it's not working for him, it can really be a massive minus. In that Game 2, I mean, he was getting cooked defensively a little bit. You know, he's not on the floor for his defensive ability. So if your offense isn't generating shots for him, and I mean today they should have won the game today. They shouldn't have, they should have. Boston deserved to win that game. Philly should have won that game, and they didn't. But Bellinelli got them at, 1.7 seconds left, shot from the corner, 2, got them to overtime. They were up 4, they were up 5 at one stage in overtime. And 3 the worst turnovers you see. It just tied. It looks like a tied. Just rookie stuff. I mean, it's their first year. And eventually, unless you can keep playing with no conscience, you know, these things are going to happen.
Yeah. For my mind, if they get through the Celtics, they beat the Cavs. Yeah. I think they beat the Cavs. But I think because the Cavs are just so woeful defensively, Redick will put up 35 a night.
Yeah.
But I don't think they get through from here. I mean, statistically, or if you look back at Boston has never lost coming 2-0 up.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Herculean if they're going to.
If they do it, it'll be the story of the season. Never mind the finals. But again, interesting Game 4. I think that they need to try something pretty radical to bring it back.
they've kind of got nothing to lose, really. I mean, if they go out and they really just, go hell for leather, play like a team that just wants to score as many points as they possibly can, maybe they come up with, a 120 night, and then they beat Boston, make it 3-1, go back there, try the same thing. I wouldn't be if I was Philly, I wouldn't be looking at this as well, we've run 100 miles an hour into a brick wall. I'd be looking at this as
let's change it up. We've got nothing to lose.
We've got nothing to lose.
Everything's against us. I would really like Simmons to start shooting from the elbow more. I think that they give him free open shots.
Yeah.
All day, every day. And then they go, oh shit, he's shooting at 50% at the elbow. He's taking 10, 20 shots a night. All right, that player goes out to guard Simmons. One, he's a lot stronger and a lot quicker laterally than those guards mostly. So he goes around them and gets the drive more often than not. That ability to not shoot at the elbow is essentially what is hampering the team's offense, from my mind.
Well, it goes in layers. I mean, if you just totally disrespect him and, every time his man is on Simmons can always help no matter what. And if, it's kind of
they get more defensive rebounds out of it because Philly's a good offensive rebounding team. Philly's a good offensive rebounding team, but
and they did offensive rebound in that second game really well. In the first game, I was looking at the stats, and in that first game, I think Rozier had 2 offensive boards and Smart had 2 offensive boards. So Rozier and Smart, and I mean, in playoff basketball, that can't happen.
No, the guy's what's Terry, 6 foot?
Yeah,
it's not on.
They're just rookies, man. Like Boston's been here for the last couple of years. They're not. God,
they're going to be so good next year.
Boston,
yeah,
and I think Philly can be as well. Like Philly's
I think Philly. Look,
I think Ben Simmons is going to really learn from this experience.
Yes. I think he's the future LeBron. There's no doubt about it. I mean, LeBron didn't have a shot for the first 2 or 3 seasons. Well, not an outside shot anyway. Much better getting into the paint and shooting from the elbow. But he's the next LeBron. Embiid will get better. He'll get fitter. Embiid's not fit.
He looked very tired. Coming back from that fracture.
Amir Johnson's the wrong fit for the team. So they get rid of Amir Johnson. I reckon Rashawn Holmes is defensively a bit bad. I mean, Amir Johnson's a good defensive player. No attack whatsoever. But Rashawn Holmes, if they can build his defensive game, he's a good backup center. And I think we'll see more of him next season. They need another shooter, a catch and shoot.
Do you reckon they need another ball handler?
No, I think that TJ, unless one gets injured, this is the problem.
To play with Simmons, I think one of the other parts of that series is
they're
Simmons.
using JJ Redick, and he's not got the ball handling skills. He's a catch and shoot
never
player.
Been that kind of player, and I mean, the more he's bringing the ball up, the less he's coming off screens, which is exactly how you want him. You want him coming off that curl and taking a shot from the wing.
There's a very real possibility that Philly is one of 3 teams that's able to bid for LeBron.
Yeah, I was listening to some of that during the week.
They get rid of Amir next year. That's $9 million. They get rid of Bayless next season. That's another $8 million. They're on max and Steed and beat. They've got a couple of more years with some rookies on rookie contracts.
I don't know if you really want to do that if you're Philly though. I mean, you've already got Ben Simmons. I mean, if you take
second ball handler. I mean, LeBron's.
But then Simmons will become the second ball handler. I don't think
he will. I think LeBron comes in as a shooter. You look at this series, he's developed his shot. I think they play off each other and they just bully everyone out of the league. I think that, Simmons develops a shot, you get LeBron in the team. I mean, who doesn't want LeBron in the team? Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't.
Yeah.
But you get LeBron and Embiid to play off each other.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think it works as well. I'd still sort of have faith in Simmons.
Complete faith in Simmons. But it's just that Philly are under the rare presence is they got 10th pick in the draft this year. That's looking like another point guard at this stage. They don't need another point guard. They need another shooting option. And they need a good defensive option, I think, because their shooters currently aren't the best defensively. I think Ilyusova is a good defender, but whether they hold on to him, I think he's contracted at the end of the season, same as Bellinelli. So very interesting.
And also, you got Fultz, Markel Fultz as well.
I think they trade him off. I think they trade him for a pick. That's while he's still got some capital value. TJ McConnell is the third in assists off the bench, and he's played maybe 10 minutes on average each game for the season. Third in assists, that shows you something. He's been part of the process. He's grown as a player. He's got a shooting game. I mean, he's the Terry Rozier of Philly, and I think that keep him. Fultz needs another season of cooking, and
I still feel like Simmons is still 1 or 2 years away from where his hype train is at the moment.
Yeah.
And especially in the postseason, I mean...
He played well against Miami. I think he dominated that series. But again, more physical series.
Yeah, and they had a lot less pieces really to deal with the sort of taller guards. Like, I mean, Horford's played a fantastic series. And Baines, we haven't even talked about Baines. But
Baines has played the series of his life, I think. He's used his body to guard Embiid well. And he's a heavy unit. Like, he's not a skinny center. He's got some size behind him. But like I said, game 1 when he's hitting threes from the corner, you got issues.
2 from 3 from 3. I mean, 6 rebounds. I think the size really matters. Like the size of Baines really matters. He's a wide player. He's another body to throw at Embiid. Where you kind of start to lose value in Embiid is the speed at which he plays in the post. Yeah. And it kind of starts to hurt your team the less he sort of passes out of the post.
Yeah.
And that again plays straight into where the Celtics have two centers that are really skilled and have the size and the power to guard Embiid. I think that's where the Bucks would have really struggled with Embiid.
Yeah.
That I think Horford's a veteran. And
his class and his knowledge of being here game in, game out has really showed.
Yeah.
And I think give a lot of credit to Brad Stevens.
Yeah, definitely.
He is such a good coach.
Yeah, very, very good. And I think even the way they run their sets, they're using every ounce of Philly's energy, like making sure, they guard on the perimeter, making sure they guard inside, like making sure Embiid's doing as much as he possibly can, no matter what, because that's eventually how you're going to wear him down.
Yeah.
And
for my mind, where Brett Brown should have said no, you're sitting on the bench, is 2 minutes, 30 seconds left in overtime today's game. He benched Embiid, and then Embiid pretty much whinged to get back on. And the last play of the game is a steal Hartford on Embiid because Embiid was too tired to get to the ball.
Yeah.
He gets that ball, they're 1 point up.
Yeah,
they might win that game. It was just a very weird game today. It was a stupid game filled with bad mistakes at the end, and it cost them. They win that game, they win the next game. Again, it goes to that series, best of 3 series. I still think, based on the first 2 games in this game, Boston would have taken it, but it would have been a deeper series than it is now.
I think ultimately, even though Brad Stevens is without his stars in that spot, Bucks series, just allowing Jaylen Brown and Tatum to just
take control.
Take the reins off. Say, lads, have a crack here. Doesn't matter how good or bad you are. Has really set them up for this Philly series because of the way he's put Tatum on Redick and tried to get that mismatch as much as possible. I think it affects both ends of the court, Redick's defense and his offense.
Yeah,
because he's really good in transition, shooting threes, and as long as Boston is taking away their 3-point, their action to get open threes, then as a team, Philly has to sort of change the way they play. They have to say, right, well, there's more throwing it into Embiid, there's more cutting, There's more Bellinelli running off screens, taking these wild shots, and I think they'll have to clean that up over the next couple of years. They'll have to clean their sets up a little bit. Understand that they need to change the way they play just slightly if they're struggling, because that second game
they fell into a
huge run.
Yeah,
I was watching that and I still didn't feel as though, this is Philly. This is this is a legitimate run. This feels like a team dominating the other team.
No, it felt like Boston could come back at any minute. They were hitting shots. It was a hit run rather than they were playing well.
Yeah.
They were just getting good shots.
Shots were sort of dropping, and that was what was feeding into it.
They were one cold streak away from losing, and that's exactly what happened.
Because I was watching that, and it was still really early in the run, in the end of that second quarter, where the crowd was just getting into it. They were just going crazy, and you don't really see that in an arena. That's really sort of for a team that hasn't won a lot, like who hasn't won the amount of titles that Boston has won, has fans that are quite happy to be patient and think to themselves, we're 20 down. If we cheer when we're 18, 16, 14, it's going to give this team a lift. Whereas you saw in that Jazz series, when they went down, the arena was dead quiet because they're not a team who's won a lot, who's quite happy with their team and where it's at, and a part of that is sort of filtered through into the Boston team. It's filtered through into their mentality, where they really don't have anything to lose. They're year one into probably a 5-year stretch where they'll attempt to win a title, and I think Philly's in the same boat.
Yeah, I think Philly. Look, for me, based on their run, 21 games out of 22, I thought this was the year maybe that they had the real chance and the matchups, if they got through Boston, to go there, to at least go to the final, because I think they beat Cleveland in any series.
Yeah.
And they obviously beat Miami. It was getting through Boston, and at least would take them either to the Rockets or the Warriors. I think they beat the Rockets, for my mind. But I don't think they beat the Warriors. I think the Warriors are just that little bit extra of class, and even with Steph being somewhat down.
I think Philly always feel like they're one game where they blow it away from being that team yet.
Yeah.
That team that's going to go to the finals. They felt like they had some rookie moments in game one. And
they definitely had some rookie moments game 3.
Some rookie moments in game 2 where they let that lead slip. And then, like the end of that game where they let that slip. I mean, if you have one game in you, then that you can still win a title, or you can still advance into the next round pretty comfortably. But I mean, you just got to accept that they're in their first year of being this team.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting how their heads sort of recompute this. They sort of re-understand where they really are in the spectrum. I mean, everyone wants to win. Nobody wants to lose.
No, of course not.
But it's all about understanding and respecting where you are as a team and learning from how you lose and learning from what happens. And Simmons, I mean, I would go in this off-season, I mean, we're talking like they're already out. Like, you never know what's going to happen. But I would go and just put up shots no matter what.
Yeah. I think he comes back in the summer league and plays like a shooting guard just to develop a shot.
Yeah.
He develops any kind of outside shooting ability, and he is deadly.
Well, it'll change the way teams defend him.
It'll give him more driving options. I think he's run out of driving options. I think that if he's driving, he's not getting clean looks at the basket. He's getting small hooks, and if they drop, they drop. If they don't, they don't. And that's, you can't have an offensive prowess on a hope.
Yeah.
If he's driving the basket, it's because he can put in it.
Yeah.
And he's not getting that.
He almost felt like that mentality was starting to affect him a little bit in these games. Inside his own head.
Credit to him, he fronted the media. He they said, do you want to front the media? And most people expect him not to front the media after game 2. After the worst game he's ever played, he goes, no, I'm going to own this. And he fronted the media and just said, I played terribly. Yeah. I think that's put him in good stead for game 3 and also for his career. I think the ownership of his mistakes means that he's open to working on things, and that is the true mark of a better player than we think he even is at the moment.
Well, he came out today and he had 8 of 14, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, 16 points. I mean, you're not looking for him to score 30.
No, he's a 20-point player.
And I mean, some of the other guys didn't have the best night. Covington didn't play well. Šarić in this series,
he's not fast enough. For me, he's not fast enough.
I don't know if it's he's being guarded well.
He's being guarded well, but again, he's not fast enough to get open shots. If they treat him like they treat Embiid. If he's coming in to drive, we'll just take a man off Simmons and put him on Šarić. Yeah. He gets his pocket pinched. This is what forces the turnover, or it forces the ball out, or it forces Philly into a situation where they've got 2 seconds left. The amount of times they've been called for shot clock violations is more than any in any series or any game this year. The ability of Boston just to not, and Šarić is notorious for shot clock violations. He will drive the basket with, instead of just putting up the shot, or maybe it's. They have to go back and look about how they run down the clock, or if it's just put up a shot early, get bodies in, and hope to get an offensive rebound. They should have the ability to outmuscle on the offensive board. They've got Embiid, they've got Šarić, they've got Simmons, who's the same size as Al Horford, and
I mean they had a fair few offensive boards in this game, 13 in this game, and
but most of the time, that's Ilyasova on the tip in.
They had 11 in game 1, and then they had 16 in game 2. So they're getting a lot of boards, and they got a fair few in that first and second quarter run. It's just making them count, and
no, they're not making them count. This is what I mean, is that they could be getting even more offensive boards.
It's more about making them count. It's more about bringing them down, having a strategy developed for when you bring down a board, whether you cut or someone smart enough to toss it out to a wide open guy, or swing the ball around the horn a little bit.
Moment 2 I think there was about 40 seconds in towards the end of quarter 4. Simmons collects the rebounds, but doesn't have... They're 3 points up. They've just got another shot clock. It's hit the rim. He doesn't have the presence of mind to kick it back out and slow it down. That forces...
Šarić?
No, Simmons.
Simmons, okay.
Simmons. That in itself, it's a rookie thing. You don't think of that. Yeah. But that in itself, you get 24 seconds. You either get the shot, you don't. You're 3 points ahead. That forces Boston into an arc shot, and that either drops or it doesn't. You got a 50-50 winning this game. Yeah. You defend well. You send them to line for a 2, and it becomes a foul. It just
he hooked it and a rookie. He's a rookie, and you got to kind of accept that he's a rookie and go, well,
Oh, it is what it is. No one's going to hate him for doing that. But just you go back and Brett Brown will run that play and say, well, you should have done that. That's something to think of next time when you're in that situation.
So what are you predicting?
I predict Philly take the next game. I think they'll come back with some heart, but they'll go to Boston, and I think that'll be that. Yeah,
I think at home, if they can somehow really handily win this next game, I mean really handily, get all the cobwebs out, have a big sort of maybe 120 or 130 scoring performance, it gives them hope. Because they are a team that if they get out of their own head, they can score really quickly, and it's from the outside. It's Simmons driving. I think a few less Embiid post ups, or maybe some Embiid passing out of poster.
Yeah, kickouts to even Simmons, playing Simmons and just shooting from the elbow.
Cutting Simmons. That was one thing also that I noticed, that Embiid, people clear out. It's an ice. And people clear out, and nobody just cuts instinctively. I'll cut through because everyone's cleared out, and even maybe 3 or 4 or 5 seconds for him to take the shot. Nobody cuts at all.
Yeah.
And if they could kind of develop some plays around him holding the ball and knowing he's going to pass, faking his entire sort of setup, and then passing it off to someone.
Yeah.
I think it'll change the way their offense runs anyway. So.
Definitely. Look, all things for next year. It's been a great year for Philly.
Yeah, you're talking like they're already out. But it's been an amazing year for them no matter what. They can't go out of this playoffs thinking that they're a bum team and it's a rubbish season. They've got to go out with things to learn. They've got to be writing it all down on their notepad and saying, right, these are the things we need to get better, because they're like Boston. They're 1 or 2 years into a window of about maybe 5 or 6 years where they
can really challenge.
They don't have to win it in the first 2 years, but they've got some mountains to go over and some targets to hit, which is good. Like, that's what you need. I mean, basketball's a cyclical type of thing. If you're getting better every year, there's the rewards for you there.
Yeah. Right, mate.
Yeah, so that was good.
Good times. We'll be back on to wrap up Paddy Mills' season as well as Thon and Delhi season.
Yep.
For 2 separate podcasts, so stay tuned.
Yep.
And we'll be back next week wrapping up round 2, semi-final of the playoff series.
Yep. Hopefully we can get at least one Aussie out into the conference finals.
Yeah, that would be nice. And that will...
Hopefully 2 in Utah, but we'll see what happens there.
We'll see how it goes.
And we'll talk to you then.
Cheers. Bye.
See yous.